Hello, welcome to the Capwise Hockey Association. I'm James Anderson, Commissioner. This is a quick video to introduce you to our league spreadsheets, which are hosted on Google Sheets and are really the central hub of everything you need to know about your team and about the other teams in your league. The spreadsheet is pretty complex. There's a lot of parts to it. I'm going to try to go over almost all those parts in this video. It's going to be a little bit long, but I would definitely recommend that you watch this entire video. It's going to give you a really good understanding of how to use the spreadsheet to your advantage and make you really comfortable using it. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and show you the PCFL spreadsheet. So the PCFL spreadsheet is the same as every other league that we have. Every league is indeed the same. When you open the league spreadsheet, the first thing that's going to come up is the transaction portal. I'm going to go over the transaction portals in a completely separate video. It's just too much to put into one video. So definitely stay tuned for that. Make sure you watch that one thoroughly as well. That'll be pretty lengthy as well. But when you come to the league spreadsheet, that's the first thing that's going to open up. Now let's talk about this spreadsheet in general. This is Google Sheets, which is a part of Google Drive. This is a shared spreadsheet. Because of that, anything that you do on this spreadsheet can be seen by everyone else in real time. So even right now, I can see just across the top that there's somebody else logged in here at the same time. This is another general manager in the league. So he's got this spreadsheet open on his computer or on his phone. To access the spreadsheet, you do indeed not need a Google Drive account. You can view it without it, but to get the full functionality of the spreadsheet, you are going to need a Google Drive account. That is a requirement to be in Capwise. And so if you don't already have one, please go sign up for one. Now, if you have a Gmail address, you already have a Google Drive account. You don't need to do anything additional. If you don't have a Gmail address, you'll need to sign up. I think it's drive.google.com or something to that effect. Now, you can register either for a Gmail address, which is great, or you don't have to. You can, they make it a little hard to find, but if you read closely enough, read the fine print, you can actually create a Google Drive account with your Hotmail or Yahoo email address. The Drive account itself is totally free, no strings attached. You just have to have it in order to do what you need to do here. When you come to the spreadsheet, and let me actually back up real quick and just say how to get to the spreadsheet. First of all, this link is never going to change. Unless something goes wrong, it's never going to change. Week to week, year to year, it's going to be the exact same link to get to the spreadsheet. So bookmark it. I've got this whole folder here on my computer of bookmarks, and I'd recommend that you do the same for every league that you're in. However, if you don't have it bookmarked, you need another way to get to it. You can come here to the league Capwise forum, and over here you see all these league icons, the logos. Find your league, click the graphic of the logo, and that's going to take you directly to that league's spreadsheet. If you're on mobile, I think that this all these logos are down at the very bottom as you scroll down through the forums on your phone. So once you get here, if you're logged in, you're going to see this Capwise hockey menu, which I'm going to go through in a minute. If you're not logged in, that menu is not available to you. That's fine. You can still browse the spreadsheet, like I said, but I would recommend logging in and always being logged in. In that Capwise hockey menu, you've got a few useful tools here. The trade portal. This will be covered in a separate video or maybe even just a post on the forum, how to use the trade portal. But if you're ready to submit a trade, you come here to the trade portal, click that button, and it's going to open a separate window here with the trade portal, and you can punch in all the information and click submit. You've also got the Capwise lookup tool. This is a way where you can search any player and get his salary information, as well as ownership information for all the various Capwise leagues. So if I type in a player's name here, you can see it starts to come up as I start searching, and all of his information is going to populate, as well as a handsome picture of him. So I can delete that. This, again, is a shared tool, so I do recommend deleting that name from there after you've searched for it. I think it deletes automatically every 10 minutes or something if you're no longer active. But also here on this separate tab is fees lookup. This is where you can find out how much money you owe. Sometimes it's really obvious you're in 3 leagues, you got to pay for those 3 leagues. Sometimes it's a little bit more complicated because you won some money last year and you wanted to apply that to your fees and all that. But you just come in here and you find your name, and it's going to tell you exactly what you owe in the bright yellow here. And then if you need it itemized, you can look down here and it'll show you every other league that you're in and how much they cost. That's that out. Next in our menu is the waiver bid form. Now this is for now here, but we're going to be changing this coming soon. And in fact, for PCFL, it already has changed. For all the other leagues, though, you would click that waiver bid form, and again, it's going to open. Oh yeah, PCFL, I've actually switched it so that it comes over here to the waivers tab. All the other leagues would open a new sheet and take you straight to the waiver form. Below that, we have the rule book. This is super convenient to have right at your fingertips. Now, if you're on Chrome and you have this Adobe Acrobat extension, it'll actually open in a nice reader window. If you're not on Chrome or you don't have that extension, it'll just open a new browser window, and you can read through the rule book here. A little small, but of course you can zoom in as needed. Going down the list, you've got fan tracks here. That's going to take you directly to the league's fan tracks homepage. So in this case, the PCFL's fan tracks homepage. You can see all that there. Below that is the forum. That's just going to go straight back to the Capwise forum. Nice to have a quick link there. Next thing down the list is PCFL home. That's going to go to the Capwise website for PCFL. So it's got the teams and the history and all that other information there. Here you've got other leagues. This is all the other leagues. And when you click one of these, it'll go straight to that league's spreadsheet. It's going to open it in a new tab. So if you're in multiple leagues, it's a nice way to kind of dance around between your different leagues. Scrolling further down the list, we have transaction portals here. Again, we're going to cover the portals in a different video, but this is just a quick way to get from, wherever it is that you are, maybe on your team's sheet or whatever, to the transaction portal. If I click one, all it really does is open or redirect me back to this other tab. It's just as quick. In fact, it's probably quicker to come down here to the bottom and choose the tab. Now, again, this Capwise Hockey menu only shows up if you're logged in, and it's not going to show up if you're on mobile. It's only when you're on your desktop. Okay, so here are the transaction portals. We're going to talk about them, like I said, different video, but I wanted to show you on the right side here, you do have recent transactions. This is like the 25-ish, I think it's 23, but basically the 25 most recent transactions are here. It's really useful to see. I definitely suggest monitoring that on a regular basis. If you want to see a deeper history of transactions, you click down here. It says click here to view all transactions. That's going to take you straight to the transaction log post on the forum. At that post, you're going to see the 50 most recent at the top, and then the second post is going to have all the other posts going back forever, all the other transactions. So here you can see it's got a little more detail, shows you if it's a drop, what these icons mean and everything, and exactly what time it was made at. So that's transaction portals. Moving across the list down here, you see all these tabs, right? So I'm going to click waivers. This, again, is PCFL only for now. Will eventually be here for everyone. This is how you're going to get to the tool that you need to use to place a waiver bid. You click the launch button, and it's going to pop up in a new window, the waiver bid form. Now, only one person can view the form at a time. So if somebody's already viewing it or using it, when you click launch, you're going to get a warning that says it's already in use. Wait 5 minutes, try again then. If you're continually getting that message and you can never get in, let me know. There could be something broken. This can only be used on desktop as of today. You can't use it on your mobile device. So if you need to place a waiver bid, you have to come to your computer. If you absolutely cannot get to your computer and you want to place a bid, just reach out to me and I can place it for you. But hopefully that's the exception and not the rule. Next tab over is the search tab. This looks just like the Capwise lookup tool that you saw in the other window. One thing I'm going to warn you about is that, again, this is a shared spreadsheet. So everybody in your league is going to come to the spreadsheet at some point to look up their team. I already pointed out there's someone here, right? So if you're trying to look up a player that you're trying to be sneaky about and you don't want everyone else to get wise, you might want to go use the other kind of general tool, this Capwise lookup tool here. So you're at least a little bit more anonymous. Here they can not only see who you're looking up, but they can see who you are as you're looking it up because you're logged in, and it would say who it is that's there. Moving over to the RFAs tab, this is going to show you every single player who is scheduled to become an RFA at the end of the season, even if they've already re-signed. It's not going to show JV eligible players because they're not available for bidding. And it's not going to show free agents because they're not available for bidding either. So this is really who's going to be available for bidding in June or late May, whenever we start RFA bidding. If the player is re-signed, it's going to tell you that they've re-signed and how much their AAV is on their new contract. So looking at Anthony Cirelli here at 6.25 for 2023-24. All right, now let's just jump over to a team's worksheet here. So every team has its own sheet, as you can see. I'm going to go to the Squirrels. That's my team. Right now, we're in the off season. We're recording this video in June of 2023. And so there are some gaps on my roster. I've got holes. I've got, because I don't need to carry a full roster in the off season. Typically, this would be full. Well, on the left side here, you've got the team's name and logo, the GM, some information about the GM, where they're at, when they joined. This is when they joined Capwise, not necessarily when they joined this particular league. Some people, will have joined Capwise earlier than they joined this league, whatever. This link right here that has the name, if you click that, it's actually going to go directly to a private message to that person. So if you want to start a trade conversation with somebody, this is a really quick way to begin that trade conversation. And then the other big thing here is your cap space. It's in big, bold letters. You really can't miss it. If it's 3.675 like mine, that means I've got 3.675 in cap space available. If you're over the cap, punch in Sidney Crosby here. If you're over the cap, it's going to be bright red and you really can't miss it. Also, during the season, if you're over the cap, you're going to get an email every single day, an automated email reminding you that you're over the cap and telling you by how much. It gets annoying really fast, so it's a good incentive to get your team back under. Okay, scrolling over to the right here, we've got all of our forwards, defense, and goalies for our varsity roster are all listed right here. This is just names. The information details are down below. We'll get to that in a minute. Up here, it's just the names. This is the only place that you should, if you're ever going to modify the spreadsheet, it's the only place you should actually change anything. You don't want to come down here and change stuff. This is all automated. So this is where you would actually enter the players' names. Now, again, you're using the transaction portals for everything. And because of the transaction portals, you don't actually need to modify anything. It's all done for you. But if you've made a copy of this to do some scratch paper work and you want to see, whatever, that's where you would actually change the players' names. It's right here. Down here under free drops, I've used all 3 of my free drops for the year. Normally this would say 1, 2, 3, and they'd be green. And then as you use them throughout the year, they're going to be X'd out and turn red. And then scrolling over here to the right, this is your junior varsity. The grayed out area here is because you can only have 30 players. If someday we expand that, that would go into here. The other thing I'll say about this gray area, if you've made a transaction, maybe a trade where you've acquired a player who doesn't fit onto your roster yet, you need to go make a drop first, I'll jot that player's name down over here. Typically, if it's down here with like a little bit of gap below Perunovic here, right, there's a little gap, that means it's a varsity player. If it's here, it's a JV player if it's right under Perunovic. And that's always just temporary until you've addressed whatever issue it is, and then I'll move the player back into the right spot. Okay, scrolling down the list now. So this is where the real information lives. Again, you don't actually change anything down here. If I were to add Sidney Crosby here, and I want you to watch row 27 right here. If I were to add Sidney Crosby, you can see his name automatically comes down to row 27 along with all of his details. These positions are driven by Fantrax, I want to say, but it's not the same necessarily as what the player is going to be eligible for in your lineup. So, Crosby might be a center and a left wing, and so, but that's not going to translate through. So take it with a grain of salt. I'm going to take him out before I forget. Scrolling across here, you can see games played. That's a really important piece of information. If the player is still JV eligible, games played is going to be lower. It might be green. We put like Adam Rosichka in here. Yeah, you can see 75, it's going to be green. If they're getting close to the limit, Charlie Lindgren's a good example. It's going to be yellow. And then once they've exceeded the limit, if they're on varsity, it's just going to be, no color, or I guess white. Over to the right now, you've got their contract information. This is 2022-23. And then going down through the years all the way to the end. If they have re-signed their next contract, so like Tage Thompson, it's going to show, yep, he's going to be an RFA next year, but he's re-signed for 7.143 per year. And then it's going to show you that full length of the contract. The only thing it's not going to show you is what that next contract ends with, if it's UFA or RFA. Obviously, in the case of Thompson here, it's going to be a UFA with a contract that long, but that will show up once we actually switch into, and this becomes the active contract. Then you'll see if it's UFA or RFA. Scrolling down the list, all of these are totaled up right here in this varsity salary subtotal. You're going to see a bunch of this color, a bunch of rows with that color. Those are your subtotals of costs, and they're all added up down at the bottom of the sheet. We'll get to that in a minute. Just for fun too, you've got the average age of your players. Mine 28.3. That's a pretty old roster, but that's a championship winning roster right there. So we'll take it. This is your injured reserve section. A little bit much to look at, but let me explain how it works. If you've got a player going to injured reserve, again, you're going to use the transaction portals to actually do the work. But what'll happen is, let's say I've got Landeskog there. Safe to say, that's no jinx there. So Landeskog would come down here, and his replacement, let's say it's going to be, I don't know, Michael Granlund. That'd be terrible, but let's say. And I took him from free agency, or maybe I took him from JV. But let's say I took him from free agency and I took him on June 8th. And then we're going to take Granlund's name and replace Landeskog. Now you can see Granlund is up here. He's flagged in red. That means he's an IR replacement. If you're not sure who he's the IR replacement for, you can come down here to this list and say, oh, he's with Landeskog. He's in Landeskog's kind of pod here, his little box. So he's Landeskog's replacement. Now, if Granlund got hurt, and I wanted to add another replacement here, let's say I'm going to put Jeff Carter. He's going to sit above Granlund on my list here. Again, he's going to be flagged in pink because he's an IR replacement. And now this shows me that Carter is the replacement for Granlund, who's the replacement for Landeskog. If Landeskog comes back, you have to release both Granlund and Carter. You can't reactivate Landeskog without getting rid of everybody that's above him. Now you can have up to 7 players on IR, but so I've got 7 kind of pods here. But if like Granlund, for example, is on IR, he's taking up one of your 7 spots. So it can get a little confusing how many spots you've actually got left. For that, if you could kind of tilt your head sideways here, you can see it says 5 spots open. Now, if I were to add another, let's say Carter gets hurt, and now I'm going to put another player on here. I'm going to put Teddy Blueger in there. You can see that drops down to 4. Now, if I just keep putting players in here, it's going to keep counting down. So Chris Letang goes in there. I need to give him a replacement, which is going to be, let's say, Brunovich from JV. Now it's down to 3. Okay. If Brunovich goes on IR, and now I'm going to bring up, I don't know, Kalen Addison from JV. Now it's down to 2. Adding more for a reason here. Bear with me. Let's say, I don't know, I've got Marcus Pettersson in here because Addison gets hurt. And then let's say I'm going to put one more guy on IR here. Josh Morrissey's going on IR. And I'm going to put Brian Dumoulin in as his replacement. Can you tell him my Penguins right now? Okay, now that has now filled up my my IR slots. And as a result, everything should be, yeah, there it goes. Took a minute, but everything now goes to gray. That's telling me I've got no more room. I can't use these IR slots anymore. I'm full. Okay, that was a lot of effort to show you that it all turns gray, but it does. I'm going to clean this up before I move on because I don't want to forget. Now, one thing I'll say while I'm cleaning this up, you don't, like I said, you're going to use the transaction portals for doing all your transactions on here. You really don't want to come in here and mess around with this stuff. You can accidentally change something on the spreadsheet, but you can really break stuff. The spreadsheets are backed up weekly. So if there's something that breaks and there's confusion over how it should be refixed or whatever, I can go to the backup and I can look and I can fix it all. So don't worry, it's not the end of the world. But really, try not to mess around in here because the transaction portals do everything you need. Scrolling down the list, below, one more thing with IR replacements, you do have your second replacement fees are tracked right here. I used 3 over the course of the past year. That adds up to 750K. If you want more details on what those 3 were, they're down at the bottom, and I'll show you in a minute. Down here, you've got your drop players list. Remember, you're limited to only 7 players on this list at any given time. I've got 5, so I'm already kind of pushing that limit. These players here, you're going to see their full AAV. But when it comes down here to be added up, it's cut in half because that's how drops work, right? So that's 50% of this total. And you can see for the next 3 years, some of these players are signed for more than 3 years. That information is it's tracked, but it doesn't show up right here. Over here, you've got your re-signing fees. If you re-add someone to varsity from your drop list, you have to pay a re-signing fee. It's 250K. Those are tracked here. There's only 7 spots, but there's no limit. So if you do exceed the 7, there's a overflow section in the bottom, which I'll show you. Buyouts, you've got 15 of those each year, at least until the season ends. After the season ends, there's no limit. Again, there's a overflow section down at the bottom, which I'll show you. The buyout costs are automatically calculated. So if you punch a player's name in here, it's going to tell you how much it costs to buy them out. Again, you're seeing these yellow, orange subtotal things. These are all for each section. You've got a subtotal. Here's your promotions. They're all 250K. If you promote someone from here, that 250K will automatically be added along with their information. Again, you're limited to 15 of those each year. Down here is your JV player salary contract information. So it's the same as the varsity section up above. The only thing I'll say is that here, if your player has gone over the limit, it's going to be red. It's going to show that they're JV ineligible. If they're under the limit, it's not going to be green. That'd be too much green. So it's just clear or white. If you do have a player over the limit, that's called an overager. You're entitled to have one of those on your roster. Here you can see he's in dark red for his games played. If I scroll back up to the top, that player is also going to be flagged in red. Not sure why his name's not coming in. Oh, right. Remember I told you never to change down here? You only want to be changing the name up here. If I add Sidney Crosby there, scroll down, there he is, dark red, 1190 games played. But if I scroll up here, he's flagged in pink. That's telling me that's my overager. Now that person can be anywhere on your roster here, but he will always be flagged in pink. There's no subtotal on cost for JV because the salaries just don't matter. Down here, you've got your cap space trades. These are the trades you've made throughout the year that include cap space. There's a limit. You can't trade away more than, I'm sorry, you can't receive more than 7 million in cap space via trade in a given year. Received cap space is marked in parentheses. That's a negative amount. That's a credit on your account, right? So it's a negative. So it's going to be marked in parentheses. You can see right here, I'm pretty close to the limit. You could only receive 7. I'm at 6.55. If I were to receive another million, it's going to turn red to tell me that I'm over the limit. There's also a limit to how much you can trade away. It's very high. It's like 25 million over this course of 3 years or something. It's a little complicated, but if that were here, like if I trade away another 35 million, you can see it would be red as well. These letters, by the way, if you're wondering, these are other teams. GPT is give me that puck, right? So that's, or give me the puck, whatever. So that's this team here. So every team, in addition to having their team name, has a 3-letter abbreviation for their team, and that's what those are. Over here is the signing bonuses. This is your UFA or RFA signing bonuses that you've paid out for a player. UFA is always 500K for 1 year. So I had Pareko last year. I re-signed, unfortunately, for 500K. Barzal was an RFA several years back. I spread the signing bonus out over 3 years, and that worked out to about 1.166 per year. He's now in the last year. So after we turn over to the new fiscal year, which is June 20th, he'll be gone off of this list entirely, which is great because he's also gone off my roster. Here you've got other fees. This is going to be the random stuff like your midseason bonus, your waiver bids, money received from compensation and RFA bidding, all sorts of the kind of anything else miscellaneous. Again, a negative number is a good thing and a positive number is a cost. Down here, salary cap information center. This is where all those subtotals from up above are captured and then tallied up. and then compare it against the salary cap, which was 98 million for last year. It's going to be 102 for next year, and 102 for every year onward. And so when the spreadsheet updates for next year, that'll be updated. And then down here, that's your cap space remaining, 3.675 for me. That's the number that's brought all the way back up to the top of the spreadsheet, and put in big bold letters. Come down a little farther, you've got your dropped overflow. This should not be used. I built this in case we decide to lift that limit of 7 players on your dropped list. But for now, you can't have more than 7, so you would never use this section. However, the re-sign overflow and the buyouts overflow would definitely get used, especially buyouts. You get to the end of the season, you buy out a ton of players, that this overflow section gets used quite a bit. These subtotals are also factored in. So like buyout cost subtotal, if I go up here to buyout cost subtotal, you can see it's taking the number from above plus that number from down below to give me the accurate number. The very bottom here, this is second replacement. So IR replacements. This is your second replacement history. It's a little messy. It's hard to read. This is really for me and for the automation of the spreadsheet. But if you really needed to know, like, okay, you saw up above, I had 3 second replacement fees. Well, I don't remember doing that 3 times. Who were the 3? This will come tell you. It'll tell you the injured player, the original replacement, and the new replacement. So I had Landeskog. I replaced him with Forsberg, and then I replaced him with Fiala, and then I replaced him with Kopitar. So that was 2 of them, right? And it tells you the date that you made those changes on. All right, one thing I forgot to mention with the IR stuff. If I put a player here, I'm going to put Landeskog back here. I'm going to put Jeff Carter in, let's say, as his replacement. And I'm going to put Carter here. You can see that Carter, his name is going to be, right now it's Landeskog. There you go. Carter is going to be in gold font. That means that Carter is the first replacement. If I were to add a second replacement, like I showed you for Fiala and Kopitar and all those guys, that's going to change to black because you can only do that once a month. So for the month after you make that second replacement, that player's name is going to show up in a black font. Once that month expires, he's now eligible to be replaced again. He's going to go back to gold. So if he's gold, you can replace him. If he's black, you can't. Okay, scrolling over to the right now. This is the draft section. So you got your amateur on the left and your reentry on the right. Here, this is just this past season's draft. Below that, we have the one that's upcoming this summer. And then you've got 2 more years after that. So you've got 3 years worth of drafts. You are allowed to trade those 3 years worth of picks, the current year plus the next 2 years. Those are the picks that you're allowed to trade. If the pick doesn't show up here, like the 2026 picks don't show up here, you can't trade them yet. Once they're here, as soon as they're here, you can trade them. Below that, and below all those, you've got your history. So it goes all the way back. This is our oldest league, goes back to 2008. So you can see the first ever player I drafted was Evgeny Malkin, who is on my team, not still, but again, I have re-added him. Same with Chris Letang. He's back on my roster again too. But just to give an idea how long ago this was, you can see Sean Avery, right? Some of these old timers, Matt Niskin and Jason Blake, Bobby Holik, my God. We've been doing this a long time. Below that, you've got every other year's amateur and re-entry draft history. Okay. Scrolling over a little farther, you've got your trades. This is your full trade history. Again, very old league, and I'm a pretty active GM, so I've got 3 columns worth of trades. These go way down here. So that's a lot of different trades. I've never actually counted how many trades that is, but it'd be interesting to know. That's 59, and that's another 52, let's say, and that's another 33. So got 130, 140 trades over the course of 15 years. You can see your full trade history there. And then as we go all the way over to the right, now your dropped players, remember you over on the left side, you can only see 3 years worth of salary information. This is where the rest of it is tracked. And then these numbers are brought back down to your salary cap information center at the bottom. And then on the right here, this is just some workspace for me. This is stuff, honestly, I don't remember what this does exactly. I think this is where it tracks second replacements and stuff like that, but don't touch it, just ignore it. It's all part of the automation. One last thing to show. Now, if you want to experiment, somebody's proposed a trade to you and you want to see what the cap impact is going to be on that trade. I don't want you to come to this master shared spreadsheet and start messing around with some hypotheticals, okay? You could, but don't. There's two ways to make a copy of this spreadsheet. The first way is you go here, File, Make a Copy. If you do that, it's going to copy everything. Now, this is a big, big file. It's got a whole bunch of scripts, code, in the back that is you can't see, but it's there, and it will be copied over with this. You've also got every team spreadsheet. You've got the full history, all that sort of stuff. The transaction portals take up a ton of space. Anyway, you can do it. You can totally do it. You can hit make a copy and you can have your copy. It's just going to take a long time and it's going to take up a lot of space in your Google Drive. So what I've done instead is added this little icon here, this little document icon. When I click this, it's going to run a really brief script. It takes 30 to 60 seconds. And what it's going to create for me is a very stripped down version of the spreadsheet. It's only going to show me my team. It's going to give me the search bar and it's going to give me the list of GMs. That's it. It's a small file and it's not visible to anybody but you. And so you can do whatever you want to that version of it. It's a great place to test out, the implications of a trade or of a claim or whatever it is that you're working on. When the script is done running, it opens up this little pop-up window and it tells you it's also been saved to your Google Drive. So the file that you're about to click here is also going to live on your Google Drive. So you're going to see it there. Now it's taking this squirrels. That's the name of the tab of my spreadsheet. And then this is today's date, 6/9/2023. So as I click this, you can see now a much lighter weight version of the spreadsheet. There's no codes attached, no scripts. It's going to give me my team. It's going to give me the search tab and the GM tab. I can fully do whatever I want with this. I can add a player in here and he's going to pop up. All this information will come in and everything. I can see what it would cost to buy out Moser and then delete him off my roster and see where my cap is after that, So you can really kind of manipulate this to see what things would look like. And then when you're done, you can delete it. You can leave it sitting there, whatever. Just a couple more things in the spreadsheet here. If I scroll all the way over, you can see this GMs tab at the very end. That's going to give you a full list of all the GMs. Including all the former GMs. There's been a lot of former ones over 15 years in this league. All this information is brought back onto each team's spreadsheets. There's really no reason to come here, but if you wanted it, here it is. And then these links here is going to send you again to the forum for a private message to the person. And then at the end, you've also got your full draft history, every single year's draft. We can go all the way back to 2008. In this league, we had an expansion draft because we started with 12 teams and moved to 14. And then as recent as 2022, which is our most recent draft, is here. So this is it. These are the league spreadsheets. If you've got any questions, you're running into any problems, you've got any suggestions, happy to hear them. We've evolved the spreadsheet over the course of 15 years, but that does not mean that there's not room for improvement. And so I'm all ears with any ideas you might have. We are, of course, limited. This is Google Sheets. It only does certain things and it can only go so far. We've really manipulated it pretty seriously. But if there are other ideas you have, if you know Google Sheets really well, I'd love some feedback on it. And with that, that's it. So again, any questions, let me know. Look out for that other video about the transaction portals because that is going to be really important too. And good luck.